The Shengwu continent covers 11 peace areas, and there are 7 islands, which consists of Azeroth Island, Wild West Forest, Gamma Empire, Gensokyo, Xingling Pavilion, Liyue, and the 7th island, where on the Shengwu continent, only strong people could enjoy life. On this continent, strength was the only thing in their law of survival. The weak have no right to receive respect, so everyone tries to be the strongest. However, Tang Yun, who was originally a martial arts genius, had to swallow the fact that his martial arts awakening failed. The man had been trying to become stronger for years to gain respect and recognition. Hearing these words, it seemed the young man lost a part of himself, because all his efforts were in vain. How can someone like him continue to defend himself in this situation? After this news, people started laughing and making rude jokes about the young man. Everyone started discussing what happened, because the Sword Palace had spent so many resources to cultivate Tang Yun. In the end, he turned out to be a non-entity without a martial soul who could not gain recognition. But in the past, he was in such authority. Everyone is talking about it. Zhan Fu even spent so many resources to train him. But he turned out to be trash without a martial soul. He was such a genius at that time. He was even called a once-in-a-thousand-year martial arts genius. Martial arts genius, don't be kidding. If he doesn't use up our resources, maybe we woke up a long time ago. Tang Yun took all the things they claimed were also theirs. Then the other disciples shouted, "Give us back what is ours," said those who shouted angrily. They believed that, if it weren't for him, they must have been successful, and their lives will be much better. Tang Yun returned to the palace where he was. He was met angrily by one of the higher-ups of the Sword Palace, who shouted at him as an insolent person who dared return to the palace, even though he had become trash, and he doesn't belong here. The man ordered him to pack all his things. The drooping man turned towards the exit but at that time, he was stopped by a white-haired girl named Qin Luo Yin. He turned to the elder and asked him to give Tang Yun another chance. At tomorrow's awakening ritual, the girl was ready to try to achieve success together with Tang Yun. The elder said that this would not work, because it was clear that the young man was disabled. And besides, if the girl miscalculated, this will affect the stability of his heart, which decreases, and then he could also fail to awaken his Tao heart. So this is the risk for beginners. Qin Luo Yin said that if the elder refused his request, then they would leave together with Tang Yun, especially if the Tang family did not assist the palace in the past. It will no longer exist. In his opinion, everyone should be attached to the Tang clan and not hate the man, and said that he was no longer important. The elder asked the girl to be quiet and gave his permission for Tang Yun's joint participation tomorrow in the ritual. But the girl had to remember, because from now on, the Qingling Sword Mansion and the Tang family did not owe each other anything. No one was allowed to discuss what happened at that time. So he didn't want to hear any more about the things that happened in the past. A man adheres to the principle of obeying. According to him, everything that no longer stupid to rely on a past that cannot be returned. Tang Yun sank into him. Tang Yun buried himself more and more. He thought about his insignificance and uselessness, and thought that he was the one who should protect Qin Lu Yin instead of her protecting him. The next day, a man and a girl sat back to back in the arena of spiritual revelation. The observer did not understand why there were 2 people in the arena, because according to the rules, everyone does it themselves. Many people believe that this is a violation of the rules of the ceremony, and they demanded an explanation of everything that happened. One of the crowd began to understand the others. After all, Tang Yun was once considered a genius. Only now he is just a trash that has not been rejected by Miss Twin. It was Qin Lu Yin who still insisted that the young man be given more opportunities. He didn't give up on her and dragged her to wake her up again. Coincidentally, all of this was also observed by a man who had once been his opponent. He told Tang Yun that it was time to pay for the humiliation he had to endure. Tang Yun, the enemy who hurt him 3 years ago, finally made him wait until today. It's time to end it. On the other side of the arena, Tang Yun thanked Qin Lu Yin, because that girl always supported him and was by his side, and for the fact that he was always by her side no matter what. What he remembered were the words of his teacher. which told him that the chances of the resurrection being done in pairs were very small and almost a failure. If he can't wake up, then Qin Lu Yin would also become a nobody, and he will ruin her life. The girl will lose respect and honor, and that would be a disgrace to his family. The guy couldn't convince the girl. But if the young man cared about his well-being, then he will abandon the ritual and will not carry it out. Finally, the man opened his eyes, which were filled with tears, and he looked at the girl with a smile. He got up to leave the arena, so he moved to the stairs leading out of the arena. Tang Yun then turned to the elder and told him to announce the results of his awakening and the decision he had made. The elder told the crowd that disciple Tang Yun was unable to awaken the martial soul, and therefore he was expelled from the Qingling Sword Palace. He had no right to return any attempt to return. From now on, he will be expelled from the Sword Palace and will never return. Instantly, the crowd cheered when they saw Tang Yun coming down the stairs. Everyone called him useless trash. Go away, you trash! Bastard the devil! All the words of demons and animals were directed at him as insults, but suddenly everyone's attention was diverted. Miss Quinn has awakened. And what is Bingluan? Everyone was shocked. It was the strongest martial soul of the ice element. Bingluan martial soul? As expected from Miss Twin, she is beautiful and strong. Tang Yun looked at him, smiled happily, and congratulated him. But in his heart, he was angry with himself. Chinapa was the only one who couldn't awaken the martial soul. Tang Yun suddenly felt that someone was going to attack him from behind, and he quickly dodged the attack. A young man with a scar over his eye appeared in front of him. That said, Tang Yun's reaction was good, but he was thrown out of the palace, so he had to leave and not disturb people's eyes. Tang Yun also answered confidently to his ridicule just now. He said, "What a dog is barking. Whether I go or not is none of your business. You don't need to tell me what to do." Then the man with the scar on his eye said, "Loser. You think this was 3 years ago. You don't have a soul material, and you are still arrogant with me." The man then became angry. "If you ask me, then Qin Lu Yin was blind and wasted a lot of time on trash like you. Qin Lu Yin must be mine. As for you, I will give you one blow. Go to hell," said the man with a scar on his eye. He also attacked Tang Yun. But what happened after that was truly beyond Tang Yun's mind. Suddenly his eyes could see something. He saw a snake shadow and soul material detected. Then there is a prompt. "Do you want to copy?" And immediately Tang Yun was able to block the man's blow. "Who is blind?" said Tang Yun. The man suddenly felt daunted. He was confused about why Tang Yun had suddenly become so strong, and Tang Yun also attacked back, but he managed to escape. The man with the scar on his eye released the Shadow Snake Warrior's soul, and Tang Yun angrily then summoned a soul similar to the snake shadow that he collected. The audience was surprised that Tang Yun had awakened. He defeated the would-be warriors, even though Tang Yun looked calm outwardly. But inside he was desperate and clueless about what kind of voice was in his head. And what just happened to him? The man with the scar on his eye attacked Tang Yun again, because he embarrassed her. But the man calmly said that someone like him would never beat him because he was selfish. And then Miss Qin Lu Yin came to defend Tang Yun by freezing her opponent. He also tried to approach the girl and asked how she was, but he turned around and pointed the sword at him, petting him with anger in his eyes. Qin Lu Yin shouted at Tang Yun and called her an impudent liar who would abandon him and run away alone. Tang Yun asked him to calm down and listen to him, but the girl didn't listen and violently attacked him. He didn't listen to him at all, so he used the technique and touched the girl's breasts. Qin Lu Yin was confused. He fell and then calmed down. He stops kicking and gets angry. Then he closed his eyes in embarrassment and awkwardness. The mysterious voice appears again, offering him to copy the emotional value of the object. Then a notification appeared that the emotional value of the copied object was insufficient, and the soul material copying process failed. Tang Yun was confused. What emotion was that? But soon another notification appeared that the emotional value had reached 100%. The copying process was successful. After some intrigue, the girl calmed down. Since the man touched Qin Lu Yin, then he had to take responsibility and marry her. The girl herself offered the young man marriage because she liked the young man. For a long time, the girl and man returned home, where Qin Lu Yin told Tang Yun that in the past he repeatedly asked for her protection. He didn't notice what predicament the girl was in, and now it was his turn to protect her. Even if he can't awaken the soul material, even if he's trash, don't face it alone in the future. He didn't care. He was not among the number of people who judged only by strength. Once he enters into her family when they get married in the future, they will solve their problems together. He was no longer alone to share his sorrows and responsibilities. In excitement, Tang Yun said that he would never let the girl down again, so he doesn't need to worry about anything. The girl smiled gently and said that she believed. Then Qin Lu Yin said that he would call his father, and Tang Yun waited for a while in the room. When Lu Yin left, Tang Yun was lost in thought. It seemed like the reason why he still couldn't awaken the soul material was because he could only copy other people's soul materials. This power is too strange. It was better for him not to tell Lu Yin for now. Not long after, a voice called him. "Brother Tang Yun, I'm back," he said. Then Tang Yun asked why he came alone. Where is his father-in-law? But Lu Yin said that father-in-law would come soon. Then suddenly Lu Yin moved forward to seduce Tang Yun. Tang Yun was confused with a blushing face. However, a notification appears if a top-level soul material is detected. Do you want to copy? And there Tang Yun realized that the girl was not Qin Lu Yin, even though he looks exactly like him, and to expose that girl. In front of him, Yun smiled awkwardly and said that he would close the door first. The girl was suddenly grabbed by a pair of snakes and lifted to the ceiling. She asks the man for help, but he says that she doesn't need to worry, because he was the one who caused this snake. Tang Yun said he knew that the girl in front of him was not Lu Yin at all, and asked who sent it. The girl is still pretending to be Lu Yin. But Tang Yun was not fooled twice. He tells her to show her true appearance. Meanwhile, outside, Qin Lu Yin and her father were walking towards her room. Luo Yin convinced her father that Tang Yun was a good and responsible man. He was also a very brave man. But when they arrived at the room, they both heard a girl's voice. They reached the room where Tang Yun was waiting. They opened the door. They saw a strange image of Sister Qin Lu Yin hanging from a snake above the ceiling. Tang Yun was shocked when he found his father-in-law and his wife watching him abuse his sister-in-law. "I'm dead," said Tang Yun. Tang Yun and the girl's relatives gathered in the living room. Where the man stood was as if on his deathbed, under the gaze of the girl's father and mother. The girl's father shouted at her and said that Tang Yun was a terrible man who did terrible things to Lu Yin's little sister. He refused to accept his daughter's choice. The girl defended the young man and said that the guy could be in a difficult situation, like it wasn't of his own accord. Qin Lu Yin demanded that the man speak for himself and take responsibility for his actions, and don't hide behind the girl's excuses. Here they were interrupted by Qin Lu Yin's little sister. It was Qin Linghua who told her father that Tang Yun was not to blame for anything. Everything happened because of him. He explains that he took the form of his older sister to understand what kind of person this man is, and what thoughts he had about his big brother. Knowing this, and in the end he found his way to close the relationship between the newly created son-in-law, and his sister was embarrassed, and said that nothing had happened between them yet. And the girl's father slapped the table and asked to finish this joke. Qin Lu Yin's mother joined in the conversation and asked the girl if she really wanted to marry Tang Yun, those who have no family, no home, no material soul. Behind Qin Lu Yin said yes, and this is the final decision. Tang Yun saved him in the past, and besides that he loves and appreciates it, and therefore wanted to marry him. But then the younger sister Qin Linghua said that Tang Yun would not be able to be her daughter-in-law, because yesterday the head of the city of Jin sent a matchmaker to them. The goal turned out to be to propose to his older sister. The Jin family originally held a high position and power, but now they are tied to the warring countries. Now the Jin family plans to use marriage methods to gradually eat away at the Genwoku sword sect. The Genwu sword sect had no intention of becoming an enemy of the warring states. They just want to avoid it. They just want to stay away and take a neutral position without joining anyone. The girl's mother asked what they should do, because they couldn't possibly stay away. The man said that he did not want to forcibly marry his eldest daughter to a bastard from the Jin family. He didn't want to sacrifice his daughter's happiness. Qin Linghua said that he had a way that would help overcome the crisis that befell the Zhenwu sword sect. The only question was whether Tang Yun had the courage to help them. The man says that if he has something to say, then just say it. If I can do it, I will definitely do it. Then Qin Linghua said that he would be frank. He pointed at Tang Yun and said, "Being a sister-in-law, of course, whoever comes first will be served. As long as Tang Yun and his brother cook raw rice." Even though they came, there was nothing they could do. Hearing that made both of their faces red. Then Qin Linghua said that he should marry his older sister. Then Qin Lu Yin's mother said, "Marriage is indeed the best way." But Tang Yun, he had to understand that now the Jin family and the warring countries would annex all the sects in the region, and we have become their target. If the Jin family's wedding plans are successful, our Zhenwu sword sect of thousands of years will disappear. Qin Lu Yin then said that her mother should not worry. He had awakened the soul material now, and he is not afraid of the genie family. His father also said that the genie family was not scary. What's scary is the people behind the Jin family. Tang Yun then held Qin Lu Yin's hand and told her that she already knew the risks. "But Uncle Qin, don't worry. He won't let anyone hurt Lu Yin." But Qin Linghua said that things were not so simple. But yesterday they told the matchmaker from Jin's side that Lu Yin was not engaged to anyone. Therefore, if Tang Yun wanted to be a son-in-law, then he had to publicly announce his marriage to Lu Yin. If you want to enter the Qin family, then he must outperform all other competitors by defeating each of them and must not lose. And besides that, the young man must be willing to become a primate, namely, a son-in-law who lives in his wife's house in the Tang clan. And only if all the conditions are met, their plan will succeed. Suddenly the mother slapped the girl on the head and said that she was behaving disgracefully, because Master Tang Yun had to cross paths with several influential factions for the sake of Lu Yin. He was already in danger, and Linghua still wanted him to become a primate. Then Tang Yun turned to Lu Yin's mother and said that if he could marry her daughter, then he doesn't care about his status. Then Tang Yun turned to look at Linghua and he said, "Zhenwu sword sect's plan to become a shield." He accepted it, but Linghua missed one thing. He should not betray his sister's happiness for the safety of Zhenwu sword sect. Tang Yun will participate in the competition to prove that Lu Yin chose the right man. Never use Lu Yin's happiness for betting. Elder Qin then laughed. He said, "Very good. It turns out his daughter was right." Her mother also said that Tang Yun was right, and said to Linghua, "When she chooses a man in the future, he must be as smart as Lu Yin." Then Linghua apologized to her brother. Qin Linghua tells her sister not to trust Tang Yun so as to try to take revenge on her for the snake. But no one listened to him. And he ran away crying. Mother said that the future son-in-law competition will take place tomorrow, so Tang Yun needs to take a good rest. Linghua sits in her room trying to make a voodoo doll with Tang Yun's face. But apparently he didn't succeed, so he intends to find another way to take revenge on his unwanted son-in-law. That day in the Northern Lord Sword sect was in the secret forest. Two men rushed through the forest with a very loud knock that could be heard in the forest. They plunged into the darkness due to the deep night. Outside, one greets the other as senior mentor and asks why a competition is being held among prospective sons-in-law in a place like a forest. If possible, to set it simply, a normal arena with good conditions will make it easier for all participants to pass a series of tests. The mentor brother understood that his colleague was too stupid. The man asked the mentor again about the fact that this Qin Lu Yin was very beautiful. So many people fight over it. His mentor also said that it wasn't just that. The point is that Miss Quinn has recently awakened a soul material of heavenly rank. Moreover, marrying him meant a chance to gain the entire sect lord of the northern faction. He couldn't miss such an opportunity. So everyone who is not lazy has sent their young talents to try their luck. In this case, maybe the two of them are not strong, but he is very handsome, in their opinion. Tang Yun watched all this and thought that too many vultures were targeting Qin Lu Yin, his precious wife, so he won't hold back in the competition. Before the start of the competition, Qin Lu Yin gave him a precious artifact, a moon mirror that allows him to detect the location of people in the secret kingdom, as well as projecting an image of any location, which combined with the list of participants the girl had given him, he would be able to easily and quickly find a suitable martial soul for himself. The list simply contains all the necessary information about all the contestants and their warlike souls. There are many different warlike souls on the list, in the form of hammers, reeds, even sausages. But there's still something interesting about the whole list of pseudo-darkness militant souls. Apart from Tang Yun, he was in the forest in the form of a young man. There was also Qin Linghua, who would slowly eliminate the possibility of the girl's son-in-law. He didn't want anyone to marry his sister. He who was lost in thoughts about his beloved sister. The girl, she noticed that someone was watching her from the bushes. An uninvited guest attacked a girl from behind and injured her shoulder. The attacker turned out to be a mature man who thought that Linghua was too cute. He was just a younger relative's little boy and couldn't move. The man towering over him said that the poison had a paralyzing effect. The man looked at Miss Quinn's breasts with a look full of lust, and says that now he will show real brotherly love, and he will know real pleasure. Linghua asks him not to touch her, but the attacker did not hear his pleas and requests. But then Tang Yun appeared and attacked the man, and he flew away several meters. There Tang Yun recognized the mentor's brother, who was smiling angrily when he saw the man said that the young man should not get in his way, because with his soul material as worthless as him, he cannot disturb his prey. Tang Yun said he didn't care about that, but he will still intervene. He said that if a man really wants to die, then he will help him, and the young man would be a worthy offering for his sword. Li is the owner of a soul that likes to fight in false darkness, which allows him to be invisible. Li attacked, but the man dodged. The man said that the young man had a good reaction, but will he be able to avoid the next attack? Li injured Tang Yun, but the man continued to dodge and attack him. The invisible enemy of the man realized that the young man had high fighting skills, so he decided to attack Linghua, and thus he was able to drop Tang Yun's concentration. But he grinned and said that she was his soulmate, because she is interested in men, and she defended this cute guy. After waiting a bit, Tang Yun grinned and intercepted him. He looked very surprised, because the young man had to be paralyzed, because he inflicted serious injuries on him, and actually the young man should have fainted from blood loss. The man smiled greedily and said that he had more than a militant soul, because Li cannot cause significant harm, because he is weak and stupid. Li shouted that it was impossible for someone to have multiple soul materials. In his memory, there had never been anything like that in his life, that someone should, or even a large number of soul materials, because this is not right and not fair. Tang Yun, after listening to the man's displeasure, and he proved the opposite. He attacked Li with such force, so he blew up his body, by the time he copied the skills, so he now had 3 martial souls he could use. He approached Linghua, still not realizing that this man was his brother-in-law. He bent over it to neutralize the poison, but his clothes were in the way, so he decided to get rid of them. Qin Linghua slowly came to his senses. Did he feel the warmth and sound of the water? Finally, he opened his eyes. He realized that he was holding Tang Yun's hand. He bounces away from him, and the young man who was taunting him tells him that he should get dressed first. Embarrassed, the girl suddenly raised her hand and slapped the young man. The man immediately realized that the cute child in front of him was actually Qin Linghua, but he didn't tell her about it. But he joked with him and said that this child had nothing to be ashamed of, because they are both men. Although she had to admit that her smooth skin didn't resemble a man's at all, because it is too soft, and there are no cracks on it, which arises in men from manual labor. The young man still told him that his idea was quite dangerous, and he was lucky he came in time and saved her, And besides that, he is able to neutralize poison. As a result, Linghua thanks him for saving her, because now he owes her his life. He approached the girl and thought about whether she had enough emotional indicators for her militant spirit to be useful. So he imperceptibly touches it to find out the level of the indicator. Tang Yun continued to joke about the girl and asked his name as a man, and he was gloomy and gritted his teeth and said that his name was Xiao Yan. After talking to him, he realized that it was still impossible to imitate his warlike spirit, because he has a low soul. Their emotional indices start playing around and fighting, and the girl started screaming that Tang Yun was harassing her. He squeaked and waved his limbs. The man suddenly became serious and asked him to be quiet, covering his mouth with his hand, because someone had surrounded them with a formation. He got up and thought that if we continue from the list that Qin Lu Yin gave him. So among the participants who had martial souls who made the formation, there was only one. Then Tang Yun realized that he was being watched. He also asked the Yin Weida to show himself. Yin Weida asked Tang Yun about how he evaluated the formation he created. The young man replied that it was quite impressive, but there is actually no effect from it. The invisible opponent said that Tang Yun didn't need to worry about this, because the formation of the 7 absolutes would continuously draw spiritual power from Linghua and Tang Yun until they both turned into dried corpses. Tang Yun understood that he could not blindly rush into battle, and therefore he needed to bait someone into attacking him directly, because if not, the fight will drag on too much, and he will have a hard time fighting, because it's hard to fight an invisible man. Tang Yun turned to the man and asked him why he didn't dare show himself in front of her. Because he is very confident in his formation. Was he afraid of him? Yin Weida answered him and said that he was not afraid of the man, and thanks to the fact that Yin Weida answered, Tang Yun understood which side the voice came from and went to him. Yin Weida continued and said that he was a hereditary disciple of the Blue Spirit Sword Palace. So it was ridiculous to even assume that he was afraid of the wild dog like Tang Yun. He was too majestic and his weapons kept provoking his enemies, and says that he is just a coward who hides his tail perfectly. And besides, he's a doll and nothing more, plus he has obvious problems with masculinity. Yin Weida said that Tang Yun's tricks were useless, and he wasn't going to fish it out. The trick is incompetent. Tang Yun understood where the enemy was and attacked him. The snake binds the Yin Weida, holding it in one place. Yin Weida understood that the man was not trying to lure him out but was just looking for his location based on the sound. But he was very surprised by the fact that he was taken at such a great distance. Tang Yun said that he just had too short an attack radius compared to him. Yin Weida started to get angry and was about to attack, but after blinking he realized that Tang Yun had disappeared somewhere, and only Linghua, who was in boy form, stood in front of him. A young man turned right behind the man and thrust the sword at him. Yin Weida was stunned and didn't understand anything. He asked Tang Yun why he had a brotherly martial soul. But the young man simply and calmly answered that his martial soul would soon be his. He is very dangerous, and he is not a fool. In his apparent mediocrity, he was initially impressed by her fighting skills. The young man was happy with his work, because he didn't think that he would collect all the necessary souls so quickly, but he needed to do something else. And so he said goodbye to his brother-in-law. He told him that his son-in-law would play with him next time, and he must eat well, because he is too thin. He can be carried away by the wind. Girl understands that Tang Yun knew all along that he was not the man in front of her. The next day, on the way out of the secret kingdom, son of the Jin clan, Jin Tianhao, he stood in front of the crowd of men and said that they were all worthless compared to him who dared to encroach on his bride and future wife. Each of them was a son-in-law of the king's clan who was highly approved by the king of 1,000 mountains himself. He believes that everyone except him is unworthy and should drop out of the competition of their own free will. Otherwise, he would delete everyone personally like he did with one of them a few seconds ago. But Qin Lu Yin's father appeared behind her and said that the groom search had been suspended. Jin Tianhao smiled and said that finally the head of the family had come to his senses and decided to marry Qin Lu Yin to him. Jin knew that Uncle Qin could see the big picture. He said that the girl's father should calm down, because once their family became relatives of the king of Chanshan, he will not allow them to be wronged. Qin Lu Yin's father seemed as if he didn't listen to the man, and says that he came to make an announcement. He said that his beloved daughter Qin Lu Yin ran away with her lover Tang Yun. Hearing these words, everyone was very surprised, saying that before leaving her daughter, Tang Yun left a verbal message to everyone gathered. Jin Tianhao said that the Northern Lord Sword sect was not doing well, because many people gathered today to participate in the competition to obtain Qin Lu Yin, and now he has run away with his lover, and his father didn't care at all. The man started shouting and saying that the Northern Lord sect just wanted to laugh at them all. Those gathered supported the words of the son of the Jin family, and asked Qin Lu Yin's father for an explanation. He understood that this pup from the genie family was trying to control the situation, thereby causing a problematic situation. Jin Tianhao turned to Uncle Qin and told him to think carefully about his actions. Or Zhenwu sect really wants to be enemies with Sword Palace, whose representatives are now gathered in the arena. The man says the man should stop with these little tricks. The genie's words angered the head of the 7 cannons. He demands everyone be quiet and listen to him carefully. He talks to everyone and says that his daughter is not some kind of gift. If everyone who has gathered is very capable and strong, then let them follow him and try to conquer him. He said that they were all wingmen, because as soon as they were given the opportunity, they immediately organized a dog, barking under the leadership of Jin Tianhao. No wonder Qin Lu Yin did not include them in anything. That said, he personally unleashed it on the young man. He said that none of the spectators thought to intimidate him and put pressure on him, with their influence, because for him, his daughter's happiness is the main thing. As long as he was alive, all those gathered probably wouldn't dream of forcing his precious daughter to do anything. He will save his daughter's happiness. As a result, he took out a blue ball and said that now he would show them all the messages Tang Yun had left behind. And after what he saw, the audience had to make a decision for themselves, and he disappeared. A video appeared where Tang Yun and Qin Lu Yin were standing. He sneered and said that a group of fools had gathered to participate in some kind of competition, and they also thought of taking his beloved precious wife away from him. If they are capable of anything, then let them come to the lake located north of the city. Where can they find Tang Yun? They decided to spend their honeymoon there, with Qin Lu Yin and the young man asking the girl to say something to them. Yang was on the other side, and the girl refused with a sweet smile. After listening to Tang Yun's message, all the men gathered had an evil light in their eyes, because now they decided to kill Tang Yun for sure. Those on the edge of the lake, where there is a lake view, where Tang Yun stood with his wife, who is interested in her husband's condition. He asks her to trust their eldest daughter's choice, because they had realized that Tang Yun would definitely protect their daughter. And one of the assistants ran up to them and told them it was a disaster, because the second relative left the arena to look for Tang Yun, and his sister fainted from the sheer number of events. Night has fallen. On the road, Tang Yun and Qin Lu Yin were near the lake. The man lay on his wife's lap. She was sorting out her hair and asking questions that interested her. For several days he had been wondering why Tang Yun had the same soul material as his own. The young man stretched his hand to the girl's cheek and began to caress her gently, said that he didn't know yet. He said that he was originally a child rejected by the Tang clan, so for the sake of his own safety he couldn't tell his strength and tell it. But the young man promised to tell me when the right time came. Qin Lu Yin said she believed him and kissed his cheek. He got up and said that he would go to the lake to wash and asked the man to behave well, not to peep and not to run away. Tang Yun sat alone by the campfire. And to think that by some strange coincidence he couldn't awaken his power to copy other people's soul materials. Then most likely he won't. He wouldn't be able to marry Lu Yin and they would have separated. Therefore, he wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to become stronger and protect his loved ones and for their happiness. Those who wish to take part in the competition will arrive at the lake tomorrow, so they can only wait. Tang Yun was bored, so he went to the lake to watch his wife wash. But he didn't think of it as a free-on display. It was the protection of his beloved from possible encroachments by ill-wishers. The man came to the bushes hiding behind them and looked at the water. But it was not Qin Lu Yin at all. It was like a moose in the water, but a mature woman with fox ears. Qin Lu Yin approached him from behind, who reprimanded him that he left the campfire. But the man intercepted the girl and said that a demon fox was washing near them, and that's impossible, so that he hears them. Qin Lu Yin was angry and dragged the man on the ground to the fire. He asked for a chance to explain himself, but he didn't listen to her and started scolding her. Angrily at this time, Qin Linghua, who went to look for her sister, was lost in the forest because he suffers from blindness. Tang Yun asked his beloved wife to let him live in the tent. He promised not to do anything wrong, and also apologized for his behavior. After listening to him, Qin Lu Yin threw him out of the tent, telling her that he didn't trust her because recently he had been meaning to spy on her while she was washing. Tang Yun said that he had explained everything to him, and there is a misunderstanding that causes this situation. Then, he was willing to look out of the tent. He smiled gently and said that it was time for them both to sleep, because it's a busy day, and they were both tired. Tomorrow they would have time to meet a bunch of bastards, so they need to rest. And then the girl would compensate, kicking Tang Yun out of the tent. The girl returned to the tent, turned off the light, and went to sleep. Outside, Tang Yun sat in the lotus position and began to meditate. His mind was busy thinking about what would happen tomorrow. And most likely the most difficult opponent will be the heir of the Jin family. Jin Tianhao is bound to gain his warlike soul, but his thoughts were disturbed by a strange, sweet smell that plunged him into a dream. The man hears a woman's voice calling him friend and asking him to wake up. He opened his eyes and saw the breasts of the woman in front of him. The young man finally came to his senses and realized that a pink-haired demon fox was standing in front of him. He was happy that he had woken up. Tang Yun realized that he was suspended. He smiled hysterically and asked his new acquaintance, "Why does he need it?" He thought that he captured him to avenge his actions. The fox woman asks who he is, and why is he in this forest? And the young man said that he and his wife decided to spend their honeymoon in this forest. They didn't know that this was his territory. He apologizes to her for disturbing her. The fox didn't believe in the words about the honeymoon and said that the man would experience a little suffering because he didn't want to tell the truth. The demon fox took out a whip and started hitting the man with it. He loudly asks who sent the man to follow him, enjoyed his whipping, and he said that her actions awakened his strange addiction. Then another fox appeared behind the pink-haired one who attacked him because he stole a holy relic. The green-haired fox attacked his sister with many vines that grabbed the girl and hung her from a tree branch. He asked about where the holy relic was, but he didn't answer, and attacked again. The green fox's attack touched the rope that the young man was hanging from, so he got out and continued his escape. Tang Yun was almost happy that he could escape when the green fox blocked his way. Yang asked if he had seen the holy relic. He pointed at Tang Yun randomly and said that the relic was there. He used his concealment as his form of escape. But the fox understood his plan and said that he was not capable of anything, and it's boring, and so he attacked it with his vines without any problem. He hung it up and asked again about the holy relic, how successful the attack was. But he noticed that the burst of combined power from the four martial souls did not penetrate his fence. Tang Yun turns into a pink fox and tells him not to play dead, because if they join together, they can survive. And the two of them attacked the green fox monster at this time. Two of those in the competition arrived at the camp and found the tent where Qin Lu Yin and Tang Yun were. One of the men swings and acts crashing into a tent and killing a couple who were sweetly spending their honeymoon. They broke open the tent and saw what looked like a man wrapped in a sheet. They said a warning from the formation. He wasn't surprised, but he didn't understand where Tang Yun had disappeared to. The girl turned to the survivor and asked if he was from the clan that participated in the competition for Qin Lu Yin. The guy replies that this is in general he is very cool, but today he had a lot to do, So he ran away from the girl who intended to run away. But nothing came out, because he was pierced by an ice pillar, and he died. Jin Tianhao appeared on the field, and he was impressed by Qin Lu Yin's martial arts skills. He turns to his presence and says that his father was right, because the gift from the Jin clan and Qin Lu Yin turned out to be a highest-class girl. What he didn't understand was how Jin Tianhao and the others ended up so early near the lake. How did they find them so quickly? And besides that, Tang Yun disappeared somewhere, and this worries the girl very much, because he thought that the people who came had killed him, from the thought that her husband was murdered. The girl turned on her condition, by catching him and starting to laugh, saying that the young puppy seemed to leave the girl, and now he was left alone. His words made it clear to the girl that they didn't know where Tang Yun was, which meant he was still alive and everything was fine with him. He turned to Qin Lu Yin and asked why he was so indifferent to him. And don't talk to him. Plus, he ignored his marriage certificate and went straight to the competition to enter a relative's family as a son-in-law. And then on top of everything else, he dared to run away with his lover. But the heir of the Jin family said that he would not attach importance to his actions if she obediently agrees to go home with him. Qin Lu Yin angrily demanded the man to shut his mouth because she talks like a market woman and didn't say anything that made sense. He tells them to get out of the way because he doesn't have time for them. These words caused anger in the man, and he ordered his assistant to attack the girl and brought him to him by force. Qin Lu Yin used her martial soul and attacked the people. He summoned a frozen phoenix and froze the attackers. Jin Tianhao entered the battle, melting his comrades with a wave of his fan. He turned to Qin Lu Yin and told her that this was precisely the power of a martial soul of the heavenly rank that should be extraordinary. That the girl had awakened him recently and had managed to achieve such high results. He asked the girl to become his wife, and then he would protect it and provide hundreds of years of prosperity for the Zhenwu sect kingdom of the north. Qin Lu Yin was furious and used the execution of the ice phoenix, but Jin Tianhao repelled his attack. He shouts that there is no point in whatever he does, it is all in vain, because his warlike soul was incapable of doing anything to him. So it would be better for Qin Lu Yin to persist with this, and being in their union, they will definitely be able to give birth to a sign with a militant with an ideal soul, saying he would rather die than be hers. He mentally asked Tang Yun to come back. At this time it was Tang Yun who was beaten badly. He barely moved his lips, whispering that he needs his girl. The green fox, hearing the quiet whisper, turned to the defeated youth and was surprised that he was still alive. He walked towards the man and looked at him. Tang Yun heard a voice telling him that the number of martial souls had been reached, and therefore the martial soul armor activation function was available to him. But it cannot be activated, because it is an inadequate indicator of the magnitude of the fox's emotions. Remembering, the young man noted that he was a man, but at the same time had some warlike soul, and this was 1,000 years ago. He decided to finally finish the young man off, because he thinks he poses a threat that could turn into a disaster in the future, and therefore once again demands to activate the armor. But he was again informed about the insufficiency of emotional indicators. The young man exploded emotionally and said that he suffered humiliation for 3 years because he couldn't awaken his soul material, and only he can gain the ability to copy souls, when a large group appeared here who started looking at his wife, and they have to run. Meanwhile, a pack of rabid dogs followed them, and now the pink fox left him and ran away, leaving him behind, with certain death, and now he also has to listen to the lack of emotional magnitude. It was unfair because of such a huge outburst of emotion. Tang Yun was able to activate the armor and appear in front of the dumbfounded fox. He grabbed him by the face and smashed him into the ground, and then stepped on his face with his foot, but he teleported and ran away from him, says he remembers it. And they will meet again, and he also said that there was some kind of battle on the other side where their camp was, and understood that Qin Lu Yin was in danger. He was lying on the ground, having lost the battle, and Jin Tianhao approached him and told him to surrender. Qin Lu Yin used her martial soul, with his remaining strength, to freeze the air around him, Tianhao told him to surrender and submit to him and surrender, because if not, he will waste his life. In order to reactivate her martial soul, the girl said that even if she died, she would not let a bastard like that defeat her, because he is too confident in himself and his abilities. He respects no one and sees himself as completely loyal. The girl then decided to use the ice clone as a support point for high-speed movement to attack him from the air, but he dodged his attack, and this angered the girl. He formed an ice blade and cut the man's cheek, but he responded with an attack by injuring her leg, and said that he lost, and he has to be smart. Then Tang Yun appeared out of nowhere, which hit Tianhao in the face, and then he flew away from the girl. He hit a tree. Then Tang Yun appeared wearing iron clothes. His eyes flashed red. Even Qin Lu Yin could not recognize the man. He called him Big Brother Tang Yun. The man has a crown on his head, and his eyes are red, and Tang Yun was angry like he was out of his mind. Maybe he didn't speak and his face was hidden by a mask and his aura couldn't be seen. He was like a devil and the smile on his face looked more like that of a madman. He attacked Jin Tianhao as he tried to use his martial soul, but he failed. Tang Yun said that whoever dared to touch his wife would die. He grabbed the man's leg and spun him around and threw him to the ground. Jin Tianhao tried to crawl away from him, but he let out a roar and grabbed his leg again and hit it on the ground. Blood flowed out of Jin Tianhao's mouth. Qin Lu Yin did not recognize Tang Yun because she was very cruel. The man began to trample on Tianhao's body and kill him, but he did not stop and trampled on the dead man. Qin Lu Yin approached him from behind and asked him to calm down. He turned around and started stroking the girl's head. He returned to his original form, while muttering that he had to protect Qin Lu Yin. The young man fell without strength, and the girl placed him on her lap. He stroked her head in a soothing motion. He was willing to hear rustling in the bushes, and demands to see who is hiding there. The girl understands that it is bad, because in their condition they could not overcome possible enemies in any way, and in this case they will both die. But it wasn't a monster, or an enemy. The ones that looked came out of the bushes altogether, but it was Linghua's relatives who still discovered them. Qin Lu Yin almost fainted, and he regained consciousness, and Linghua started to ask him how he felt too. The girl said that everything was fine with her, and asked where her husband was. Linghua said that her sister had forgotten her, and she left her in the bushes. The place he pulled Lu Yin because he was afraid that she would take advantage of her older sister's helpless condition. When he heard that Linghua had left Tang Yun, the girl and ran to look for him, because he was in a terrible state after the battle. Linghua didn't understand why her older sister was so worried about this worthless son-in-law. Qin Lu Yin looked at her bound husband, who was unable to speak because his mouth was also covered with something. In succession, the girl hugged the young man, but so much so that his ribs started to hurt. And only after that the girl apologized, and her husband asked how she felt, and patted his cheek. Their dialogue was interrupted by Linghua, who was talking a lot of bad things about Tang Yun. But Qin Lu Yin forbade him to speak unpleasantly about his son-in-law. But the girl did not listen and began to shout that he was a weak-willed coward, and nothing more than that. Qin Lu Yin slapped him, and told the younger one to apologize. Linghua was very surprised by what happened, because her sister had never allowed herself to raise a hand on her before. Linghua ran away. Tang Yun approached his wife and hugged her, saying that his little sister was just worried about him. Qin Lu Yin said that it was not necessary to get used to such treatment from Linghua, because he saw him going too far. The girl says that she will not let anyone defame her name. Tang Yun turned the girl over and they hugged. He says that she is the one he loves, will protect, no matter what happens. Then Tang Yun asked his wife to rest, and he himself would go look for Linghua. This forest is not the safest place, so tomorrow morning they will decide what to do next. Tang Yun jumped over the tree branches to look for Linghua. A few minutes later he found a girl sitting under the shade of a tree. He told Linghua that it was a coincidence that they both ended up in the same place. The young man asked the girl not to be angry, because he understood that she was worried about her older sister. But he didn't need to worry, because Tang Yun was responsible and would never allow Qin Lu Yin to be harmed. He asks to listen to him and comes back, and he also apologized to his sister. He stretched out his hand to pat the girl's head in a sisterly manner, but he smacked his hand expressing his dissatisfaction and disgust. Tang Yun understood that the girl was unhappy with him, so he turned around and asked to go home. Before leaving, he took a few steps away from Qin Linghua, when he took her hand and said that he didn't know his way back at all. They walked through the forest for a while, and when they arrived at their destination, the girl apologized to Qin Lu Yin. He says that he overreacts to everything. Qin Lu Yin told him that it was not him who needed an apology, but her husband, and if he apologizes to her, he will forgive her. Because his respectful attitude towards Tang Yun hit his self-confidence and self-esteem, because he considered it an insult. Okay, and they need to think about what to do next. He said that since Jin Tianhao was dead, it was better for them not to return home, but if they did, they would immediately be captured by the Jin clan, and therefore it will be much safer for them outside. Tang Yun said that in this case he wanted to visit Fengdu City, which is the richest trading city in Phantom County. If they have money, then you can get anything there, including precious stones, jewelry, silk, and delicious food, and even secret weapons with 1,000 years of history. Linghua also objected, and said that her daughter-in-law thought they were stupid for running away from where they were defending him. At least 1,000 lies if they went there. Who knows when they will get there? But the man took out a device and asked the girl if they knew what it was. The girls are shocked, saying that this is proof of teleportation points. The girl asked Tang Yun where he got such a thing, because it is a very expensive thing that can transfer them to any portal in any big city. Tang Yun pointed at Jin Tianhao's corpse and said that he took this little thing from him, and now Qin Loyan understands how Tanhao managed to cover the road in half a day that took more than 2 days. The three cheerfully raised their hands and shouted Fendu. It was waiting for them. Tang Yun told Qin Lu Yin that now their lover's escape would happen for real. On the phantom bridle of Fengdu City near the gate of the auction house, the hunter took out a pink fox from the bag, saying that this was their lucky catch. The girl was unconscious with her hands tied. His entire body was covered in abrasions and wounds. He is in very serious condition. The head of the auction house said that this was a valuable commodity for which they would pay a lot of money. Tang Yun, Qin Linghua, and Qin Lu Yin arrived in Fengdu City. The girls asked the young man what they would do now. The man said that Fengdu was the largest trade center in the southern part of the continent. So first, they need to gather some information. At the same time, to prepare for further travel, there was no harm in them getting rid of the items he had collected from the corpses of Jin Tianhao and his minions. Linghua said that if he wasn't afraid, he would do something unkind to his sister. He would not follow them. Not only could there be danger on the way home, what would he do if it was for the safety of his father's clan? He actually decided to sell them, so there was no way they would go home alone. Dan smiles evilly and tells his little sister that he doesn't think he's afraid of his sister, but because of its topographic cretinism, therefore he would not be able to find his way home on his own. They start fighting, which disturbs Lu Yin, and she orders them to calm down and go to sleep. The next day, Qin Lu Yin and Linghua walked around the square collecting all the glances of passers-by because they were both beautiful. What a great sister duo, a man shouted. After the girls asked them to look at her, a young man with a fan said that as soon as he saw her, he felt how beautiful she was. People recognized the man who shouted as the eldest son of the Yuan family who had great wealth, and in fact they owned half of Fengdu's wealth. The man approached Lu Yin and asked her name. The girl asked him what he wanted. The young man said that no one was more familiar with Fengdu City than him, if the girls want to go somewhere. So he was ready to submit his candidacy as guide, and he guarantees they are ideal. He used a souled fighter to scare this guy, the audience surrounding them, and said that they found a sickle on a rock, and this fool got into trouble, but it also helped him. He would know how to recklessly molest a girl who fell into the hands of a young man. He knelt down and apologized to Lu Yin because he didn't know that he was a warrior. He approaches her from behind, which says that she is very seductive. and now he will teach a lesson in teasing people. Many were angry at the young man who they said was a loser who had taken it into his head. They asked him to go and not embarrass himself. Tang Yun pulled Lu Yin by the waist and asked her if she wanted to accompany her at the auction, and the girl agreed to hug the guy. He now regards Tang Yun as a love relationship teacher, and will respect him as his godfather. In the auction hall on stage, a beautiful woman in a tight dress greeted the arriving guests. He said that according to the established order he would attend today. So much for the first lot review. It turns out that the mysterious hammer which contains strong lightning energy inside the hammer is called Mjolnir, and only the person who has achieved his recognition is able to unleash his power. The next lot turned out to be a doll in the shape of Mikuhatsu. The auctioneer said that the doll was made of unknown material. It is amazingly stretchy, but the specific application is unknown. According to their assumption, it was an inventory of martial arts training. The third lot is a stone mask. According to information, mysterious and terrifying powers are not hidden within it. But the scope of this mask is unknown. Tang Yun thought that this was a strange and frivolous auction. So he told Lu Yin that they could leave. But as soon as the man turned towards the exit, the fourth lot was announced, which turned out to be a demon fox. And Tang Yun recognized him. The auctioneer said that the children's scene was their final lot. Purebred demon foxes after the demon fox transformation can function not only as fighters, but also as a rare toy for various types of fun. The starting price for that bid was 100 gold. Because most of those taking part in the auction were men, the excitement began. One of the participants raised the price by 1,000 gold. This participant turned out to be Kai Embargo's representative of the Golden Youth, who enjoyed the same fame as young Master Yuan. Everyone thought that now the demon fox would get it. Lyciator asks people who are willing to give more. If there is none, then the owner of this demon fox will be determined definitively within oneself. The girl thought that if no one else offered, then the commission would be big. He cries. He was happy because he had never played with a demon fox, so he couldn't wait. Tang Yun raised the price to 1,001 gold, and he looked at him. He said that he warned the youngster that it was better not to joke with him once at this auction. He fell into the waters, and he gave 1,500 gold, and Tang Yun 1,501 gold. And in bed a young man raised up to 20,000 gold, and he thought that there was someone richer than him. He also raised the price to 30,000 gold. Tang Yun intended to continue bidding, but Linghua stopped him. Noting that he was angry, Tang Yun saw it and thought that he would lead his wife into jealousy. Of course, that's not good, but a wife in anger is much scarier. And then he said that if he really needed that fox, then he will still try for himself and give it to him. The auctioneer congratulated the young master on his acquisition of the demon fox. Tang Yun told the man that he needed to pay for his purchase, because if he couldn't pay 30,000 gold, then he would have to sell part of his treasure. He also chased his angry wife, and young Master Yuan was thinking about hitting him. He told him to shut up, because he is useless trash. Little did he know that he had crossed the path of a man he considered his godfather. He demanded that he apologize to Tang Yun, and gave him a slap on the head. He asked his godfather, if he thinks this respected person doesn't have all he can, how can they make amends? What kind of offerings do they need to bring to be forgiven? Here a demon fox was brought to meet them. He was bought by his nephew, and he told him that they would take him as a gift. Tang Yun was sleeping and she heard a male voice. So he got up and went to the window to see where the sound was coming from. He opened the window completely and looked out. He saw a man who tried to seduce his wife during the day and called him father. He let them out of the room and asked what was this. It was the person who called him. The man knelt down and said that this was respect from his son. He said that he was impressed by Tang Yun's flirting skills. Therefore, he wanted to honor him as his godfather, and asked him to convey his teachings. He mentioned that he was aware that Tang Yun was interested in the fox demon at the auction, so he bought it specifically to give it as a gift and offering. The fox is unconscious, so they threw him on the sidewalk like a doll, The limp Tang Yun said that it would be impolite of him to reject such sincerity. So he will. Letting himself be called the Godfather will give him the ultimate knowledge of love affairs and flirting. He teaches the first lesson and says that girls don't need to be chased. Instead, you need to make sure that the girl herself is the one who chases him. Tang Yun asked the man, slowly realizing what he had heard. But he himself will be gone for a while. If someone asks for it, then he has to protect it, and in the meantime he will take revenge. He threw the fox demon over his shoulder and walked towards the forest. He headed for an empty forest and cleared it. He tied the fox to a tree. He took the girl's face, telling her that it was time to pay up one last time. She used the power of the ice phoenix to bring him to his senses. The fox opened his eyes and did not understand where he was. He looked at Tang Yun. She recognized him. She started screaming and asked him what he was doing. Even if he decided to kill him, he still wouldn't tell him anything about their demon race's sacred relic. The young man said that he was not very interested in such a holy relic. And did he really want her to kill him? But today he would not kill him at all, but would make death seem like a fairy tale. Until Qin Lu Yin woke up and looked around the room. She noticed that her beloved husband had disappeared and was not in the room. She looked out the window and noticed the man flirting with her. He went towards her, and she bowed to him. She calls her godmother and asks her not to worry. He said that Tang Yun was currently interrogating the fox demon, so he ordered him to stay and watch over his sleep. The girl did not understand what was happening and why she was called godmother. He asked where Tang Yun went, but the man said that he knew, but he was forbidden to tell it. The girl was very dissatisfied with this answer and asked the question again. In the forest, Tang Yun tortures the fox by tickling it. That's why he shouted and asked to stop it. The young man said that recently the fox was more determined and confident, and now he was begging him for mercy. Even though he had just started, the girl asked to let him go. And he said he was wrong, and he also promised to give him the relics of their race. The holy relic is a golden horn. Qin Lu Yin appeared behind Tang Yun. Yang asked him what he was doing with this fox in the forest. Terrified, the man jumped back and asked his wife what she was doing here. The girl misunderstood his words and started to get angry, and asked why he couldn't be in this forest. In this clearing, he noticed a trumpet in the hand of a man, and start reaching out. He intended to take it, but in the end they broke it, and they were illuminated with golden light. The husband and wife were suddenly thrown into a strange place with many monolithic slabs. By writing, they both approached the same plate. And starting to read the writing, it turns out that this is an article about the creation of their world. Once upon a time, people lived in peace, but everything changed when people started letting go of the war that the beastmen were waging with the common people. They mercilessly kill each other, after they opened a portal from which many flying saucers fell, destroying the entire human civilization and other races that once inhabited their planet. After all this horror, a man appeared in the sky floating and attacked everyone with a strange aura. Only one person can stop the invaders in the chaos of the world. But when the world needed him most, he disappeared. Qin Linghua was quietly snoring in the room. He didn't know that his sister and brother-in-law were missing. The writing on the tablet disappeared, and suggests that these writings belong to ancient times. Tang Yun said it might be true, but they need to find a way out of here and find out where they are. The demon fox was also with them in this mysterious place, but he was hiding from the couple. They tried to find a way out, because he knows where he is. After reading the records of the ancestral sect, he found a stone and pressed it on the door, opening it. Tang Yun and Qin Lu Yin moved through a dark and gloomy dungeon. The young man had a sword in his hand, which was always ready to protect his wife if something happened. They found a hidden path, and Tang Yun said that he would go first and let Qin Lu Yin follow him. The young man entered the passage, but saw nothing. It's too dark inside, so he needed to go further inside. They were surrounded by many pillars and nothing else, as if everything was dead. After moving a little deeper into the passage, they heard a loud noise, and this meant that the passage had closed and they were trapped. Torches lit up on the walls, and in front of them appeared a large blue minotaur that had a machete in its claws. He had huge horns, and he was 6 times bigger than Tang Yun and Qin Lao Yin. The young man said that they were in a terrible trap, and the minotaur started attacking them. But people managed to dodge in time and attack the minotaur. But to him, it was like a mosquito bite. Tang Yun noticed that there was a green line above the minotaur's head, and consider that this line reflects life. Tang Yun insisted on testing his theory. The young man used a punch from the snake shadow, and the hypothesis was confirmed. And he told Qin Lu Yin that the green line above the head of this monster meant its remaining life force. So if it runs out completely, the minotaur will die and they will defeat it. Someone decided to use Frozen Phoenix execution, and Tang Yun will support him from the air. Tang Yun said that attacks from the air were much more advantageous, due to the fact that it has no ground under its feet. It would be like dodging a minotaur's attack. And it was Qin Lu Yin's attack that froze the monster. Tang Yun climbed onto the monster's back and was about to plunge the sword into its head, but he failed because the minotaur suddenly broke the ice and stood up. The scale of his life force was getting longer, and he himself is much larger in size. The young man understood that things were not that simple, and they have to sweat more. Nowadays, someone dares to step into the domain of a good family. Young Master Yuan meets uninvited guests and asks who they are. But the intruders were not afraid of young Master Yuan and his guards, so he eliminated the guards and the young man was left alone. The assistant surrounded the frightened young Master Yuan. The man realized that the sketch showed the face of Tang Yun, who was his uncle's godfather, and when the young man thought they wanted to hurt him. And young Master Yuan told them that he didn't know the person in the picture. It was a picture of Tang Yun. But this answer did not suit the uninvited guest, and the old man struck the man on the shoulder with a sword. The old man said that young Master Yuan lied to him, very badly because according to the data he knew Tang Yun, and even have a friendly relationship with him. Because young Master Yuan lied to him, the old man ordered his men to capture the man and kill his entire family. Young Master Yuan asks not to kill his family and wants to explain himself, but the old man kicked him and said that they were mercenaries and killing people was their job. Uninterested in what this person wanted to tell them, the old man stepped on the man's back and smiled evilly, saying that he would let young Master Yuan watch his relatives die painfully. But after they killed his family, they would take young Master Yuan and slowly and painfully torture him until he told the truth. Currently, Qin Lu Yin and Tang Yun were fighting the minotaur. The couple was already so tired that the Lopu Yin fell off her feet, so Tang Yun held her waist to prevent her from falling. A young man did not understand why it was impossible to kill monsters. Every time he gets older, he gets older. Qin Lu Yin and Tang Yun's strength had already run out. They didn't have the energy to continue this fierce battle. Qin Lu Yin told her husband that she noticed that the monster was protecting its head, which means the head is the weak point. He realized this was because there was a green crystal on the monster's head, which was most likely feeding the monster with energy, and he didn't let it die, and can continue to regenerate itself. The man took a safer distance so that his wife could rest, and Tang Yun gained a little strength. The young man then stretched his shoulders, and engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the monster. The minotaur let out a roar and jumped towards the man, but he dodged and led the minotaur into the magic circle formed through the use of the various martial souls that Tang Yun had. Golden chains flew out of this circle wrapped around the minotaur and not allowing him to move. Qin Lu Yin joined her husband, and they used combined attacks that combine their martial souls for even more powerful effects. On the girl froze the monster's limbs, and the man spun it in a whirlwind, and said they did a good job. The young man approached the minotaur, whose head had a green crystal. He raised the monster's head slightly to make it easier to penetrate the crystal with a sword that looked exactly like Tang Yun's. Tang Yun inserted the sword into the monster, and they were illuminated by green light coming from the broken crystals. At the place where the minotaur appeared, a red and black-scaled lizard appeared, and Tang Yun asked what it was. At this time, Linghua, who was left alone in the room, woke up. The sleepy girl didn't immediately hear the sound on the other side of the door. But when he finally woke up, he approached the door. Tang Yun's godson turned out to be outside the door. He started ranting about the fact that his godson's family was destroyed, so he came to ask for help. He goes to hide it. The girl did not understand anything and asked to stop talking, because he doesn't understand anything. He asked the man to calm down and gave him time to understand the words spoken to him. Currently, the mansion has turned into a mass grave, because all the family members were killed and thrown into a mountain of corpses. He looked in horror at the mountain of corpses consisting of his family members. The old man smiled and said that he killed everyone and would not tell young Master Yuen the whole truth. Young Master Yuen shouted at the old man and said that even after torture, he was going to take revenge on him. The man started crying because he cried and threatened the old man. His godfather appeared out of nowhere, who gave young Master Yuen a slap in the face. Young Master Yuen was surprised that they were here, and he asked if he too had been arrested. The man turned to the old man and put his hands together and said that he would take him with Tang Yun. But he already had one request for the old man. The old man said that he was ready to listen to his request. The man said he heard and saw Tang Yun's very beautiful wife. She has a beautiful face and a great figure, and she is a kind and generous girl. So he can be generous and give it to her. The old man lost his guard, and the man stabbed him in the heart. The old man looked at the man and his face disappeared, because Qin Linghua pretended to be him. He looked at the old man and killed him by drawing a sharp knife. The frightened young Yuan master didn't know about the girl. He asks, "Who is he?" The girl smiled sweetly and said that she was also at the auction just like him. Qin Linghua told young Master Yuan to take the chance and run home. He says he will deal with the rest of the invaders and join them. Young Master Yuan didn't want to let the girl go alone because it was dangerous, but Qin Linghua took the form of an old man, and the man has no questions and no worries. Linghua in disguise managed to get out and ordered them to chase Tang Yun to the east. The underlings started the chase. Then he went inside. Linghua took her true form and sat on a chair. Young Master Yuan and his godfather knelt before the girl and called her queen. "Thank you for saving them." Linghua laughed sweetly and said that the two of them would be her little brothers from today. And he also asked where Tang Yun and Qin Lu Yin were. He also said he didn't know where they disappeared, and not even a trace was left behind. Elsewhere, she asks him what he thinks is in the chest. The youngster grabbed the chest to open it, but the pink demon fox snatched it from his hands. The young man shouted at him, and said that he didn't expect to see her again, and the fox smiled evilly. He thanked Tang Yun for discovering the secret realm and helping him obtain the secret treasure. He said he left first, and hoped that Tang Yun and Qin Lu Yin would die slowly in this abandoned hall. He took off and ran. Tang Yun also took off and started chasing him. He chased him for a while, but to no avail. The man returned to Qin Lu Yin, who was sitting in meditation. The girl asked if he had caught up with the fox, and the annoyed young man said it didn't work. Qin Lu Yin and Tang Yun sat side by side. On the young man's side heaved a heavy sigh and said that he didn't know how long they would stay here, and whether they will be able to get out of this world. Then Qin Lu Yin gently stroked the man's palm and told him not to give up, because he believed that they would find a way out. He hugs the man and says that even if they can't go out, he is still here and will not leave each other. Her words and actions confused the young man, and he blushed, and turned around with her face to face him, saying that he has a gift for him. He took out a gold ring and told the girl that he would love her all his life and treat him with respect and gentleness, and therefore does she want to marry him officially. He offers her to live together in sorrow and joy. Qin Lu Yin didn't even think about the man's question. He immediately agreed. Tang Yun put the ring on his finger, and they kissed each other. While in the dungeon, it was only lit by torches, but they were not disturbed, because they are surrounded by love, and they don't care about anything else but themselves. Their kiss is interrupted by a golden horn forming between them that they had previously broken. Meanwhile, Qin Linghua was there. He himself felt worried about Tang Yun and Qin Lu Yin. Tang Yun tells her lover to take his time. He went to one of the bushes and took out a golden scroll from it. This scroll turned out to be a contract. He accepted when he was given the fox as a gift. He took it out and unwrapped it, while muttering that the demon fox itself ran to vengeance. He pricks his finger and drips blood on the scroll to summon the fox, and he will be very interested in what he will do now. Currently, the fox demon was relaxing in the hot springs. Even he couldn't imagine what awaited him. He checks the chest he stole, and said that it was amazing, because it is a treasure that has been hidden for thousands of years. Suddenly he felt the collar close around his neck, and move it to the forest. He fell directly under Tang Yun's feet, which caused Qin Lu Yin's anger. Young Master Yuan and his godfather stood waiting on the street, because they were told by Ling Hua that they were not allowed to go inside. So they stood and chatted with each other while waiting for their queen to return. And he wanted to go into the house, but his godfather forbade it because they had to wait until Qin Ling Hua returned.